Welcome to my first YouTube video. If you're watching this, you've likely seen Shifting Metal's video where he purchases a BMW X5 from Mike Brewer with a horrendous timing chain rattle. In this video, you're going to see me replace that timing chain, and I'm going to show you everything that's involved, the costs involved, get it running and get it back to Joe. But before I do that, let me read a few comments that I saw in Joe's video about the timing chain. This one says, "No wonder someone wanted out of it. I'd still like to see it done though. Stick around, I'll show you exactly how it is done." I especially like this comment from Reese. 19 hours seems excessive. There's plenty of BMW specialists who offer a while you wait timing chain replacement on the N57 engine, as they can do it in the morning. Well, Reese, I'm going to show you why you can't do it in the morning. It's a pretty involved job, so stick around for that. There's one here from Yami. Sounds like a nice piston valve contact here. Seen a few of these videos of the past few weeks. The unluckiest car dealer in history. He may feel like the unluckiest dealer once I give him his bill, but in this video I did run a borescope camera down one of the injector holes, and no, there isn't any piston valve contact there, so we're just doing a little timing chain replacement. You may recognize me from another one of Shifting Metal's videos where I inspected his Porsche 996 and gave him some great news that his engine needed rebuilding. You're going to see much similar videos on this channel where I'm going to be rebuilding my Porsche 997 engine, as I strapped a big supercharger to it and it didn't go all that well. So a bit of luck will get my car back together and get it back to the Nürburgring. A little bit about myself. I've been in the motor trade for 14 years, specialising in Porsche for the last 4 years. But we're going to do some other bits as well. Right now we've got a Ford Escort RS 2000 project going on where we're going to be pulling the engine out, refurbing the engine bay, putting the engine back in with some nice twin Webers, all that sort of stuff. So stick around if you're interested in any of that. Hopefully the camera picked that up. The car is running really rough and it's got quite a rattle. Joe bought this car knowing it needed a timing chain and kindly dropped it off to myself to fix it. With all the under trays off, you get a real sense of what a behemoth this job is. So we're going to take the exhaust off. Not too much of a big deal, but this whole lot's going to have to come down. Gearbox brace at the back there. I think I'm probably going to take this off. Maybe put a bit of chain around it, just so when we drop it on the floor it's a bit easier to get off. Obviously there's massive gearbox, transfer case on the end, front differential with a full suspension assembly. It's going to be a big job for sure. Just for context, if you see my outfit changing or 1 minute it's dark and 1 minute it's light, it's because I do have a full-time job as a Porsche specialist. So this job was done in my own workshop, 2-3 hours a night over the course of about a week. These upper arm bolts were seized solid on both sides, so I had to use the inductor heater to get the bolt glowing hot and then get a ratchet on them to slowly work them out. You can see here just how much corrosion was coming out of these bolts. It's much the same on the Porsche Cayennes I work on. This is where I've got both sides to now. We've disconnected this hub off the upper arm there. The strut is off the lower arm as well. Have noticed that this bush is split, but don't think that's anything to worry about right now, but we will replace that before we put it back together. Looks like it's time to start taking some bits off the top of the engine. First glance, doesn't look that bad. There's a steering shaft down there, a couple of AC lines, presumably some power steering lines, a couple coolant lines and boost hoses down the front here, and some wiring looms that go up underneath this scuttle panel. So we'll tackle that next. Here we are with everything disconnected. Steering shaft, there's some coolant hoses down the front of the engine. Of course all this wiring loom and everything, and I have disconnected the prop shaft. And we are currently supported on 4 axle stands. So I'll set you up on the tripod, and with a bit of luck, we can get the old girl out. Get in. There it is, all sat down on the deck. All in all, not that bad of a job. Only took a couple of hours, and the only thing I struggled on was this hose from the power steering rack down to the power steering cooler. The clip is stuck on the cooler, so I'll get that off and I'll just put a new bit of rubber pipe in there, but that won't be too much of an issue. I think the next steps here are going to be get all the torque converter bolts out through presumably the starter motor hole, which I think is just buried in there somewhere. And then yeah, get the gearbox off and then start tackling the engine. That's going to have to come off, and this disc maybe going to have to come with a sump, or the diff comes off first. Not sure, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. Current situation. And I'm learning some lessons. I think, had I done this before, probably would have taken the starter motor out whilst the engine was in the car and taken the torque converter bolts out, because the starter motor was actually tucked just down there. Bit of a faff when you're rolling around on the floor, but we got it done. Engine is just sat there on the subframe, and I've just chucked a bit of wood in there just to keep it upright whilst we work on the top of the engine. There's a lot going on here. There's a wiring looms and there's vacuum pipes, so we're going to have to remember where everything goes. But one step closer. Here you can see me getting all the fuel pipes out of the way, getting the fuel rail off, that sort of thing. I didn't manage to capture pulling the injectors out, but they were really quite stuck, and I did use quite a big slide hammer to pull them out. When they were out, I did take the opportunity to run a borescope camera down the injector holes, just for peace of mind, and I can assure you there was no piston to valve contact. We're getting our very first look at the timing chain now. See, I've got the rocker covers off. I did have a small battle with the injectors. They were a little bit seized in there, but not too bad. But have a look at this. That's not good, is it? So there's 3 more chains on this engine. I think we'll get it on the engine hoist now. We'll lift it up. We'll get that sump off the timing chain cover, and we'll see how bad the other ones are. Don't know how tight that should be. Oil pump chains are never massively tight, but that seems very excessive. We know this one here is loose. If we felt it at the top here, we can get some slack on the kind of tension side of the pulley. We'll get all these chains off, all these pulleys off. We'll put it in time and we'll lock it out, and we'll get the new kit on. So I forgot where I got to because the camera died, and it is now the next day because it was getting quite late. But here it is. Here's all the new chain on, new oil squirter, new tensioners, big tensioner up there, and all new pulleys as well. So hopefully, fingers crossed, nothing to go wrong. And it does look like these chains are quite loose. I think the other one was probably a little looser than this, but much better. So pretty much the reverse now of what we've done. I'm going to put it all back together. So I'll set you up on a time lapse and you can watch that. But once I get this timing cover on here, we'll put the pin in and we'll double check the timing at the top, just so we're absolutely 100% certain that it's all bob on. This, look at that mess. I think we're probably going to do two 1 or 2 engine flushes on this before we put the final lot of nice oil in. So the back cover's all torqued down. We've got the rear main seal installed and the flex plates on. All the bolts are torqued. Just before, you know, we carry on, I'm just going to spin the engine over and see if we can get the crank pin back in and lock the cams out, just to triple, quadruple check the timing. Right, there's a crank locked out. Perfect. That all sits on there nicely, and all the 3 dots match up on the back. And that's it all back together running lovely. I have put about 30-40 miles on the car with the engine flush in because the oil was really bad. On the test drive, I did spot a few issues though. One being I did break down on the way back to the unit because the driver's side caliper had actually seized. So I was stopping every mile or so to let it cool down and then carry on driving to limp it back here. But we've got a new caliper on there, new discs and pads. Did a major service on it as well. Kind of got the thing retail ready for Joe, so all he's got to worry about is the cosmetics on the car. But it was overdue a service by over a year. But check this out. Absolutely lock solid with shit, so that car should drive quite a bit better. The rear lights weren't working either, so these are the bulb holders that go inside the rear lights. If I get that to focus, you can see how rusty that is, and also the pins had snapped off. So in there I've de-pinned all the plugs, I've cleaned them, and I've plugged it all back together with new bulb holders, and that's working spot on. Handbrake switch was also broken, the button had fallen off, so we've stuck one of those in. Yeah, and that's it. And now I'm off to drop it back at Joe's. So I've dropped the BMW back off here at Barrow Motors, and it made it here, so that's a good thing. And the costs involved, as I promised. So we did the full timing chain using a lot of high quality parts, some genuine BMW parts in there as well. Full major service, had a brake caliper because of course that got stuck on. Disc and pads across the front. We diagnosed the rear lights, handbrake switch. The total bill came to £2,500. So I'd be really interested to hear in the comments whether you think I charged him too much. Did I not charge him enough? But as per that first comment, it definitely took a lot more than 19 hours dropping the engine out of that thing. Yeah, let me know. Thank you for staying on and watching the whole video. If you liked the video, please comment, like and subscribe.